a different kind of look at Apple's financials, and the purple iPhone. This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from Mac Voices. Watch or listen to Mac Voices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, if it's Tuesday, it must be Mac Voices Live, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We're here every Tuesday to talk tech, talk Apple tech with our friends, and we'd love to have you join us in the chat room on YouTube. Please do. We have some friends in there already saying hello, and if anybody else comes in or anybody else is there that hasn't chimed in, by all means, please do. Tonight we have several topics. We're not sure how many we're going to get to, but we're going to start out and see where it takes us. Before we do, though, let's find out who all is here to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about. So taking the screen as usual, first up, Mr. Jeff Gamet. Jeff, welcome. Good to have you.
It's great to be here hanging out with you and with everyone else. And it's Tuesday, which accounts for the smile on my face.
Exactly. It's Tuesday. David Ginsburg is here, as always. David, good to have you.
Great to be here as well, and good to see everybody's faces, and looking forward to a good conversation, as we always have here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jay Miller is here, and we're not even going to tease him about his mic tonight.
No, I was going to tease you about the over-under on how many topics we're going to get through. I wouldn't want to bet. I think we have at least one or two that don't deserve a full show treatment, but that's that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I thought about last week, and who knew?
When has that ever stopped us?
Yeah. Jim Ray is here. Jim, good to have you.
Good to be had. Look, I've got my background.
Yes. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
That is Silmar Conference Center, and that's up near Monterey.
Ooh, that looks nice.
I thought that was Luke's summer home in the balmy part of Tatooine.
In fact, actually there's a conference that I usually go to every year. It was virtual last week, so that's why I put the conference up. But the conference is actually under that grass that's behind me. There's actually a conference room underneath that grass.
I don't think they called any session where you have to get all the grass removed a conference. I think they call it a smoke session.
Boy, Jay, you're on a roll tonight.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to leave that there.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump over to Kelly Guimont, who is celebrating her very own holiday.
It's not mine. Okay, for the record, because I believe it or not, people have said this to me. I didn't make this up. It's not a thing that I actually did. It just happens to be the intersection of two things I enjoy: Star Wars and terrible jokes. So, happy Star Wars Day, Chuck. May the 4th be with you.
Thank you,
And
Kelly.
also with you.
Sorry, I missed the appropriate response. See, I'm really not that much of a Star Wars geek. It's fun, but it's not my thing. So thank you for covering for me, Jeff.
I've got your back, Chuck.
Good. Mark Fuccio is here with one of his soon-to-be famous backgrounds. He's quickly becoming known as the background king. Mark, good to have you. Oops, Mark is muted.
Thank you, Chuck. It's good to be here. It's good to be known for some things, and I think if we hit certain of the topics tonight, I think why the inspiration Pink Floyd's Money will become apparent based on some of the topics if we get into them.
Well, Mark, you're great with backgrounds. Not so sure about your work with microphones, but that's okay. We got you on, and that's good. And so I'm going to use that as a segue, though, and let you start out, Mark, because, one of the things we wanted to discuss were the Apple financial results. And folks, before anybody tunes out, our intention is not to, go slog through all the numbers and everything, but more to talk about what they mean to each of us and if there were any announcements that really struck us as interesting and unusual. So we will try not to bore you because we know that by now the dollar numbers have been talked to death. But Mark, the money song is absolutely appropriate because they really did some amazing numbers this time.
They did. I mean, I think the revenue up 53% year over year. That's amazing. Although last year was depressed because of COVID. So it's instead of jumping over, a 2-foot target, they've jumped over maybe, a 16-inch target. So they had a little bit of help because of depression. But the thing that really amazed me is, in addition to all of the product lines, having growth, was truly just how profitable they were, as indicated by, they had a 7% increase in dividends per share. And historically, they've been raising it a little bit, but it's been down around the 3-4% range, if memory serves. So this is almost a doubling of their dividend. And then more amazingly, they allocated an additional $90 billion for repurchases of shares. So they're continuing on the rate of nibbling out and rebuying about 4.5% of their outstanding shares per year. So that's also very good for long-term investors. The other thing is just the magnitude of it. It seems like they made about $2 billion a week profit throughout the entire quarter. So again, this is just a sign of how much demand there is for these products. And I think also on the listening to the Apple call, this study at home, work at home, live from home trend doesn't seem like it's abated. They indicated that they expect continued strong growth with that, and also dampened results that apparently, finally the shortage of semiconductors is catching up with them. And just put that in perspective. It's not that there's a problem with semiconductor plants per se. It's just that overall demand for computers and accessories is up 50% or more year over year. And that's just swamped the available manufacturing capacity. So, those are some of the numbers about the quarter that really stood out. So, I think they're doing well. And of course, Wall Street had its typical sort of, is this as good as it gets sort of reaction. And today, the whole market took a dump because the Treasury Secretary is talking about raising rates, and that raising rates and raising taxes, those are two things that scare the market. So they put everything on sale, and maybe it's a good buying opportunity for people if they have things on a shopping list.
How about anybody else? Observations, thoughts on the earnings call, and what caught your attention?
What caught my attention more was the iPads. The iPad shares were just amazing. I mean, just the continued growth of iPad, more of some of the other things. And everybody's going to talk about the iPhone because it's 54% of their market. But to see the continued growth of iPad really impressed me. I thought that was pretty exciting to see that market is going well. And then they came out with new models right after that. So it continues to evolve. So even more of a reason to make it your full-time computer.
But I think even more amazing to me was, their home wearables category that are things like that was higher than I think either Mac, or it was higher than iPads. So that it's just been a long-term grower, and it's an amazing business. So that includes the watch, as well as, I guess, their newly released HomePod minis, as well as other devices. So it's wonderful stuff they have there. And I wonder how much grain we'll see in a couple of years, contributed by the AirTags.
You think the AirTags can move the needle that much, Mark? or is it just another piece in that category that helps?
I think it's another thing in the category. I mean, I was amazed at sort of what people are talking about of contributions of iPods, but I guess if you ship 100 million or 70 million of them, that adds up pretty darn quickly. The thing is that at this point in Apple, anything, unless it's priced for multiple thousands of dollars, anything else, it's going to take enormous volume to have a significant impact. But again, since Apple just dumps everything together in that one category, HomePods in 3-4 years could be a significant revenue and profit driver.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is interesting about the numbers that they do give us is what those numbers are, because we keep seeing that the watch numbers, for example, are, so many of those numbers, 60%, 70%, 80%. I think this time it was 75% of people who bought a watch last quarter, an Apple Watch for the last quarter, it was their first Apple Watch. And what that tells me is that market is just continuing to expand. And I don't think other people are talking about it in that sort of way. Obviously, Apple is taking it seriously. It's one of the things they leverage into services, because it's really great to go for a run and leave your phone at home and just listen to music or podcasts on your Apple Watch. It's really great to use Fitness Plus, which mostly wants you to have an Apple Watch. They are trying to reel people into all of that stuff. And I think the fact that so many people every quarter, like it continues to be a really high number every quarter of people who bought a watch for the first time. And that number just that number continues to be really high. I know initially, I think they told us like Series 0, when it was just Apple Watch, maybe Series 1, they gave us some numbers about like how many they sold when it first rolled out at that time. And since then, they tend to be a little bit vague about how many they've sold, because they kind of, like Mark was saying, they scoop everything into that one category. But it really feels to me like that market is continuing to grow and Apple is taking it seriously. And it's the kind of thing that makes me really curious about what the next Apple Watch is going to look like and the one after that. I feel like it's going to continue to become more of an independent device and less of a companion for something you've already got. Family setup was one of the first pieces of that, because you can tie more than one watch to the same phone, same account, and then let it be a relatively independent device on its own. And I'm very interested to see where that goes next.
Hey, Kelly, you hit on something that I think is very, very important for Apple, which was the number of new customers. So what you said, it was like 70% for Apple Watch, and I
70
believe
or 75, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like 50% for Mac.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, it's a very high number, and that's a very significant thing because that's new users to the platform. And
right.
And that's, to me, at least as important as current users that are buying new equipment, because you're growing the base, and it's a lot easier to maintain people in the platform because Apple has a very high customer retention rate than it is to get them in the first place. So so seeing people stay on the platform, of course, is good. But seeing all of these new users come in, that's, to me, really, really good.
Yeah, the Mac numbers are interesting. The part about the watch that's interesting to me is that you pretty much, like, again, aside from family setup, you have to be an iOS ecosystem member already for that to be a thing of value. And that's the piece I think is really interesting. So I do definitely think that it's interesting that the new user numbers are as high as they are with Mac, with Mac OS devices, and like what we see with iPad devices and iOS devices. But I think the watch is sort of a thing of its own, because like even AirPods, right? You can use AirPods with everything. I know they're awesome, but they're just Bluetooth headphones. So you can hook those to a PC, you can hook them to an Android phone, you can hook them to, like whatever else there is that's out there that will stream to a Bluetooth device. And that's the thing that I think is sort of interesting about it's the thing that's interesting about AirPod numbers too, when they give them to us, is that the AirPod numbers just continue to be bonkers. But like the watch is a thing that to me feels like a vote of confidence to iOS. Like, I have an iPhone. I like my iPhone. I'm not switching from my iPhone anytime soon. And the way that you know that is that I've invested hundreds of dollars in an accessory for my phone that I wear on my arm. And I find that a really interesting thing.
Right. Similarly, for iPads, I have an accessory that I put in my ears and I wear while walking or driving or, whatever. So I think, Apple is really fleshing out all the sensory touch points, this leads into, I don't want to go talk about speculation, but whatever their set of goggles or glasses or AR or other devices that it seems is part of this overall theme that they have been pursuing. For a long time, it's unite the devices through interoperability and handoff and things. And these past couple of years, it seems they're getting into how our bodies intake information from the external world.
Jim, what were you going to say?
Yeah,
I'm just wondering how many people buy iPhones so they can get a watch. I imagine that's not insignificant.
I wish they would have shared more information about the makeup of. The analysts were probing, but Apple really didn't say anything other than, we had a great quarter of new users and upgraders. So for the phone. So, I mean, I think anybody could have predicted that. It's just, okay, what are the magnitude and what's the ratio of new users to upgraders for phone at this point?
And I kind of love the fact that they don't lay it out, because inevitably it would just be dissected and prognosticated upon, and the way that certain other things are, to death. And this way, a whole category gets to flourish, and the weaker products may be propped up a little bit and given a better chance. But Kelly, kind of what you were saying, Apple just keeps building out its sphere of influence. From you right on out. So, you start with your computer and then you move over to the iPad, the iPhone, the AirPods. Now we have AirTags. Apple TV. I mean, everything, for the most part, everything interacts with each other to some degree in some fashion that enhances the Apple experience. And that's what I keep looking at every one of these calls. And I hated the fact that they killed the original HomePod, but on the other hand, if it wasn't performing the way they wanted it to, good, just let it go. And you kind of had a quasi successor in the HomePod Mini that apparently was much better received. So, why not? And then maybe go back and reiterate on it later.
We've talked a lot about the HomePod, and I think I still stand by my assessment, and yes, I know I run a home for Crackpot Theories, that the HomePod was a learning experience. Apple wanted something out of that, and if consumers were able to get something out of it, so much the better. But I don't think that was ever the intention for the HomePod. I don't believe that's what it was for, and I think the Mini serves a similar purpose in being a speaker you can talk to. But and I'm not trying to derail, but that's part of it. I'm still kind of back at Jim's assessment of like, I want to watch bad enough, I'm going to buy an iPhone, because that is a fascinating metric. And I don't know, like, we will never know, of course, but it's very interesting to think about. That's not something I would have considered. Like, I'm just going to go buy a new phone and a new watch, and
why not? The government's sending everybody $1,200 checks, so there's a lot of disposable income out there that people can spend and invest in. Should the right device come by that tempts them.
What I was saying was choosing the platform. Everybody's got a phone now. So it's a question of, are you going to buy an Android phone or, an iPhone? And, I mean, I'm not saying it's a major thing, but you see, at least informally, I just see people with, Apple Watches everywhere. And, I almost never see any other kind of smartwatch. And I'm not even sure what's out there on Android. I know there's some stuff, but I think for several years, Apple had it to themselves. And I got to think that there were people that were like, you know what? I see these watches everywhere. I want one. So next phone I get, I'm going to get the phone that goes with the watch. I am not saying that's a major driver of iPhone sales, but I think it's something.
So, Jim, I have an observation I'd like to share with you because I notice a lot of people have Apple Watches, or they seem to have Fitbits. I don't see a lot of people who have. I mean, occasionally you see somebody has some other type of watch, but that's rarity. It seems you see Fitbits or other fitness monitors or the Apple Watch.
Yeah, although even Fitbits, I think I don't see near as much as Apple Watches. And, even like before the pandemic, I started to notice like, the waiters at restaurants had Apple Watches. And I was like, wow, this is not just a, high-end nerd thing.
Well, it's very useful as a messaging device because you can imagine in a restaurant, if somebody really has to get you, you may even not even hear your phone or feel it if it's in silent mode. But certainly the thing on the wrist, you could feel it, or you could see it. So, I mean, just today at lunchtime, I was at a gas station and I got a phone call, an important phone call. I'd been waiting, and it would have been horrible if I had missed it, but. I was able to pick it up and, Dick Tracy style, answer on my phone, on my wrist.
Jay, give me 1 second because I want to welcome Brittany Smith. Her prior meeting is over and now she's joined us. Brittany, good to have you as always.
Thank you, Chuck.
You and your microphone. Jay, I'm sorry, I've interrupted you. What did you want to bring up?
I was just wondering how much of this is the fact that Apple acknowledges that people have kids these days. Because I think about some of the new Apple Watch sales, and like one of the big things that they even advertised it with the Apple Watch SE or was that this is the device you give your child. This is the device you give the kid that's still too young to have a cell phone of their own. And then on top of that, we've been in a pandemic, and a lot of parents who are used to not having to make sure that their child is taken care of from a certain hour to another certain hour while they're at school are now responsible for how do I get my work done, but also make sure my child isn't sticking forks in electric sockets. That hasn't happened. Don't call the cops on me, I promise. But at the same time, the first thing that I did was I called a friend and said, "Hey man, do you have an old iPad? Because I'm not about to buy myself a brand new one, but I'm not going to give my child an iPad Pro." And I do think that there are some people that have said, you know what, I've got this iPad sitting here. Let me, pass the iPad over to the little one and let me go to the store and use some of that Mark Stimmy money and get myself a new iPad. That way everybody's taken care of.
I think that's part of it. Like disposable income, the disposable income conversation aside, because I don't think it's disposable for everybody. The piece of it, I think, is the tipping point of having heard over the last, we'll say since, last fall sometime, a lot of places putting a lot more forward-looking guidance out. I know we talk about how Apple doesn't ever do it, but a lot of companies, instead of saying, we're going to work from home for 3 more months, 3 more months, 3 more months, 3 more months, a bunch of places have gone, never mind, this time next year, we'll try again. Nice job, everybody. We'll see if we're going back again next September. We'll see if we go back, November 2021, or even like, we're not even going to talk about it in 2021. We'll revisit the issue of bringing people back into the office in 2022. And that's the point when I think a lot of people are like, having the kids on my old laptop for Zoom school is not working. having all the kids share the same device is not working. Having, using my own machine because I have to work and not having it be a very recent machine. Maybe it can't run a more recent operating system, things like that. I think there's a lot to be said for that being sort of a tipping point. Like, as people are like, if I'm here for the next year, I'm going to get a new iPad. The kid's going to get the hand-me-down, or, being able to pull the trigger on some of those decisions. I would not be surprised if, and some of it was made a little easier by the fact that in a lot of places, you weren't going out and blowing money, going to restaurants and going to bars and socializing with people. So there's a very good possibility that, some of the income from that is still just sitting in the bank. And it made it, a slightly less craterous decision to your bank account to go buy a new computer. So I think that probably had something to do with it as well.
The one observation that I made earlier this week, though, is that we all talk about sort of why. Why did Apple do this? And I think pull back to the 30,000-foot level and say, okay, I for whatever reason, I had the money or I had the need to buy a watch. I had the money or the need to buy a phone. I had the money or the need to buy a tablet. I decided to buy an Apple product.
Mm-hmm.
That's and not because I had the extra money. I really don't believe that, it's just if I have the extra money, I'm buying an Apple product. I think it's based on the functionality of it. And that's something I just feel like never gets talked about enough and always gets grossly discounted, that people are choosing the higher prices, because if it was just a phone, then there are a dozen phones out there that are $1.98. And if you want to step it up, then they're, $2.99 for some of the nicer ones. But, when it comes to buying an Apple product, you're making a financial commitment. But judging by the numbers, there are a lot of people that are making that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And right, I mean, it's a phone, it's a music device, it's an internet browsing device, and to build from Steve, and then also it's a camera and an audio recording device, which I think. I mean, it's amazing the amount of casual photos or short little video clips I get from other people just showing something, or they take a video of something. Oh, what do you think? Should I get this one or that one? If they're looking for something at a store. So I think definitely the way that we use them has changed. So it's as a camera, it's more of a visual communication tool than it is just sort of your traditional camera. You would take a picture of something for memory and memorialization purposes.
But that's not really any different for an Android phone versus an iPhone.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is, but I'm making the point that I think to some extent there may be some superior camera technologies that get negated away because both Android makers and Apple are in a race on cameras, but I think that's one of the. When's the last time you heard everyone say, "Oh, what should I get?" I want to get a video camera device. Should I get one that has DV tape in it, or should I get one that goes to flash? I think boom, that market has just been pretty much destroyed, except for pros. And similarly, the point and shoot market has been annihilated because of smartphones.
Yeah. I want to give credit, and I have not fact checked this, but MG Siegler on Twitter, I guess it was Friday, pointed out that Apple's iPhone business is larger than Microsoft. Now, let that sink in. If that's accurate.
Microsoft's not that big anymore, is it? Are they a measure?
No, they're big.
Yeah,
Hold on. Let me. Let's.
I mean, compared to Apple, Apple.
I heard my favorite tech company. What's up?
Well, yes, Jay. As a matter of fact, we're here talking about Apple. How did you guess?
Yes.
So Microsoft, March quarter was $41.7 billion. So annualize that's like $160 billion. I mean, that's I think iPhone is is bigger than them.
I mean, I don't even know how to put that into perspective. That the phone business for Apple, forget everything else that we're talking about here. That alone is bigger than Microsoft. And I still think there's a perception out there that Microsoft does so much, and they seem to have their fingers in so many different pies that it's still a perception that they're large. Forget about the market cap thing, that they're just larger. And Apple does it just with a phone. I mean, it just, right. I don't.
And amazingly, there's only like a 10 or maybe 12% difference in their market cap. So, it's an interesting dichotomy. But I mean, I think Apple, again, I think we've talked about this. I know when I've been a solo guest on your show, Chuck, that because Apple does not really provide a lot of forward guidance and information about what they're doing in their future, they tend to get judged very harshly just on their quarterly results, whereas Microsoft and other companies share more about what their product road line is, and they get a little bit better financial treatment by the street. But that's just the way it is. But you're right. I mean, just the one phone, let alone iPads, let alone Macs, let alone all the wearables, just that one phone, which is now like 40% of Apple's revenue, is bigger than all of Microsoft.
And for some reason, Mark, that changed my attitude toward the releasing of the purple iPhone. And as nothing wrong with that. I don't mean it that way, but just the idea that, okay, so why would you bother to introduce a purple iPhone, mid-cycle, and who, does it really make a difference?
Because Kelly likes
because it's color. Purple.
Well,
because it's a new color, and you're just goosing the sales cycle mid-cycle.
Yes, but I don't. Let's go. Let's not blow Chuck. Let's not interrupt and blow Chuck off course.
No. I mean, listen. I understand everything.
Mark, have you ever been on a show with me? That's why I'm here.
Yes.
I feel like you don't understand how any of this works.
Things. Yeah, but you don't have a monopoly on saying interesting things, Kelly. So, Chuck, let's hear it
again.
Well, that's debatable.
All right, calm down, everybody. But the idea that I mean, because what in a market that large, the purple iPhone could be significant. I mean, maybe there are people out there that'll push them over the edge. And I'm having trouble articulating, I guess, why those two pieces of information kind of came together in my head. And it's like, yes, of course. Why wouldn't you leverage the daylights out of this market if it's that large and you have such a commanding position on it? I don't know.
I know at least two people who already bought one.
There you go.
There you go.
Isn't that what companies do, is leverage whatever, whether it's big or small? I try to leverage my tiny little piece of the market. So of course Apple's going to do that.
I guess, Jim, because don't anybody hit me here. It's just a color. And so, from where I sit, it just like, okay, kind of why bother? But then when I heard, okay, when I had that perspective, it just changed my attitude toward, if Apple wants to, release one the day before the next iPhone with rhinestones, somebody's going to buy it because it's just going to appeal to that sense of whatever it is that makes them love rhinestones.
I'm not sure what you mean by bother. I'm sure they didn't spend $1 billion developing a purple phone.
I wouldn't think so.
They spend a little bit of effort and they'll get a little something out of it, hopefully.
Well, and the regular numbers, like the 11 came in some colors, the 12 comes in some colors, and we used to get the red one mid-cycle, I think. Like Product Red didn't always come out initially. Like, yes, right. My work phone is the red one because that was like my first question was, can I get a red one? And it was partly because I like it to be distinctive. I like to know. In the old days when people congregated, there would be a lot of phones in the mix, and it was nice to know which one was yours. And that's part of what so I like both of the people I know who bought them, and again, the plural of anecdote is not data. That is an asterisk I have to put on everything. But the people I know who bought it were like, I kind of thought about getting a 12 and thought my previous model, whatever it was fine. But then they came out with that purple one, and like, I really like purple. And if I can have a purple phone, I'm gonna have a purple phone. And don't just need a purple case. Now I can get a purple phone, and spend a little less money and get a clear case instead, and like, or not, for people who just have naked phones, and move on with your life. And that's, I think that's part of it. Like, Apple is finally embracing the color piece. Jay's over there. Jay's an iPhone nudist. That's part of what I'm sorry, we do that on daily observations all the time. So we talk about Andrew being an iPhone nudist all the time. It's not a secret. I'm not telling tales out of school here. But like the color that it is, like, there was a whole lot of conversation about the iMacs all being in colors now. And I think Apple started with the iPhones to see if people were actually still really into that. And it turns out, yeah, they kind of are. And people snapped them up, and so now the iMacs are colorful again, and I think it's great.
Right, because it's
people like
color
things.
is technology is fashion statement, and color.
Yeah.
And if you think it's a fashion statement, and if you think it's a consumer product company, color is absolutely essential. It all depends on your point of view.
Note to self: create iPhone nudist T-shirt. We
Note
need
to
that.
self: buy Chuck's iPhone nudist T-shirt.
Yeah.
Know a guy.
Note to
I know a
self: cover
guy
your eyes.
totally needs one.
Chuck,
When this Mac Voices panel started, we picked out 3 topics to talk about, and we got to all 3 of them eventually. But of course, we took a few side trips along the way. Nothing new there. Next time, we finish up with the purple iPhone and then dig deep into the question of whether Facebook could, should, might try charging for access to their platform. That's next time on Mac Voices, and I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.